morning, everyone. This is Leslie Jouflas, and welcome back to your Daily 5. And if you'd like to visit me sometime, my website is Trading Live Online. If you ever have any questions, feel free to email me. You'll see that on this slide here. But back in around the beginning of April, I think it was April 12th for Daily 5 segment, I did it on some of these big tech giant stocks that all had these longer term patterns on them. So we're going to go back and review those today. You can go back and look up that segment if you like and watch that one. And then I'm also going to update the SPX weekly head and shoulder pattern that was presented on the April 26th Daily 5. So let's get right to it. Got a few slides to go through today. So we'll start with the SPX, because I think that if you get a handle on the major indexes, that helps tremendously when you're scaling down to individual stocks. So on April 26th, this pattern had not broken yet. 4,200 was the important level to be watching on this. And so it has broken the 4,200 level. And you can see this lower downward sloping trend line that the market has closed below that. And price so far has just gotten just about back up, retesting that area today. Now, a test backup can come a bit higher. It can even pop up above the 4,200 level, but I wouldn't expect it to get too much further than that if this is going to be a valid pattern. So this pattern is also showing where some downward targets may be right around this 0.50 level. We do have a FOMC meeting today and tomorrow. There tends to be an upward bias. Now, that doesn't mean upward new highs. It just means sometimes the price will drip to the upside. So I think the lows of the last couple of days to watch down here are going to be important. I think if we get a new low, then we'll start to head down to these retracement levels. Now, the RSI on this chart, which I like to watch, those of you that follow these videos, the RSI levels from this little low here that was back in March, beginning of March, that was about 37.14. And this April 29th low right here was about 37.05. So it was a little bit lower than that. Now in the S&P, the 37 to 40-ish area can still be considered a bullish zone. However, I think that the RSI is already showing us from these previous highs and breaking these lows here and breaking this support level that it had been on, if you look back all the way to 2020, that it is in a bearish zone now. So if the price breaks below here and this RSI turns below that 37.05 area, I think we're going to see more of that downward movement that I was just talking about. Okay, let's update some of these tech giants now. Let's start with Google. And most of these that I showed you on April 12th have broken these large sideways coiling patterns. Apple, which we'll look at in just a minute, that one is the only one that's still at the lower end of the pattern, has not broken it yet. But what I'm seeing now is price here may test back up towards this lower trend line. So you can see that there was this long consolidation pattern, and it has broken that and stayed below it. So I think any test back up here should provide some resistance, and it may set up, if you're trading these types of patterns, may set up a trading setup for you. But if we look here again, the RSI is still around that 37. But the MACD, look at the MACD, how it's just been below that zero line actually since last September, since this pattern just about started. On balance, volume is turned down. The same principle with the RSI. If we get a little test up and price turns back down and it breaks that RSI low, then I think we're going to be seeing lower prices to come on this. The money flow down here is not extremely positive. It's just been going a bit sideways here. So again, if this breaks these lows and the money flow turns down, then I think we'll see a stronger move to the downside. So next one is Amazon. And Amazon has broken that sideways coil, as you can see, where that lower dashed blue line is. There is a longer term trend line coming up from 2011 to monitor any further downside. So this trend line, if price does make it down to this lower trend line here, then this may offer a buying opportunity. However, if this trend line is broken, then expect further downside. So because this is a longer term chart, then you'd want to, if price approaches this trend line, you want to be scaling down in your time frames and using some lower time frames to look for potential buying setups if it appears to be holding that trend line. So here we can see that the RSI is still around that 40 area. But again, I do think that this has changed ranges. See the downward sloping RSI here. If we look back where these lows were, these lows all the way back here, it is below that level. But I would be keeping an eye on that RSI if prices continue to move down. Another thing to watch for if prices get to this lower trend line is to be watching for bullish divergences in the RSI and the MACD, the money flow, etc. Those are always good things to be checking. Apple, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, has had this upward trending parallel channel, and it's just holding the bottom end of this range. However, the indicators are not really showing larger bullishness currently. So let's take a look at those. So again, we can see that the RSI going back into 2020, this is where the March lows were. The RSI had a very strong move and held this upper very bullish range. And this created the support level for the RSI. Well, Apple on these last moves to the downside have just exceeded these lows, but you can see here it's still around 46, and that is considered bullish. But I would be watching again if it breaks this lower trend line for that RSI to turn down. The MACD has been turned down since just about the beginning of this year, and the on-balance volume on this weekly chart is also heading a bit to the downside. But if Apple does hold this level here, then it may provide an opportunity for a retracement back up into the center or possibly the upper end of that range. Applied Materials, this has broken that lower support. You can see that on the blue and the green dashed lines. The peak lines are fib retracements. And I'm going to scale down to a daily chart on this one so that we can take a look a little bit more detail of this range. So I've got a retracement on from the March 2020 lows, and Applied Materials, like so many did this sideways range. It had a false breakout to the upside. This was actually a little butterfly sell pattern, and back down to the lower end of the range, stayed in that range with a little false breakout there, and then finally broke it back here around the end of March. It has exceeded the 0.382 retracement. Now, I may get a test back up into this area. If it were to exceed this high with strong bars, then I would definitely be reassessing this. But it appears that it may be coming down to some of these lower retracement levels, especially around that 0.50, and then the 0.618 would be the next level. You'd be watching for some potential support and buying opportunities. Now, one other thing that I'm going to be watching, if this continues to the downside in about the same fashion that it's doing now, this may form a large A, B, C, D buy pattern. So that's something that I'll put on the watch list and I'll update in future daily 5 segments. Okay, and Facebook has broken this trend line. It popped down, but it's sort of hugging that lower end of the that trend line. So for further downside, it would have to exceed this 169 level. This pink dashed line here on Facebook, you see the very long candle hill. If it pops above that, that may act as the resistance area. It was a very, very long, you can see on this chart, it's the longest down candle that we see, and many times about the 50% level of a candle like that will act as resistance. So even if it pops back up here, it may just hit that resistance and turn back to the downside. A close above that area, and then we would look at the bullish side. And Microsoft, the RSI is still holding again around a bullish zone. Is around this 45 level right now. However, again, like with the other ones that we're looking at today, a break below these recent lows, you can see how this has kind of formed a new support area down here. A break below that and a turn down in the RSI would likely bring a deeper retracement. So price here, you see the trend line coming up. Now price can move up and test this trend line, and it would look like a strong move or a bullish move to the upside. However, if it finds resistance there, then it's just testing where it broke support, and another turn down from there, and we would consider that a strong resistance area. There is a slight divergence on this chart on the MACD. However, if this just corrects up and price doesn't really do anything, then it's telling us that there wasn't that much underlying strength with that divergence. Well, that's what I have for you today, and thanks for spending the time with me this morning. Again, please feel free to email me, and I'll see you soon on another Daily 5.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.